What's up everyone, welcome to my adventures in Don't Starve. This is a game that I've kind of wanted to do an adventure series, and one of them, like a more long-term one, something like the Spelunky one, which, granted, I haven't released an episode for that in like a couple months. I'm still planning to continue that. Yeah, I want to do something more long-term with Don't Starve, because this is a game that really catches my interest in a weird way that I can't quite describe. There's a kind of a banality to it, because it's one of the truest survival-oriented survival horror games I've ever played, and that's kind of something that I've always wanted. It's something that I kind of play Minecraft, and specifically the Civcraft mod for, and it scratches that itch that from what I've played and heard of people's experiences with Animal Crossing with. It scratches that itch where, yeah, it's kind of mundane and banal, but in a way that's kind of fascinating. And I've played it for about 2 hours or so. It's not going to be quite blind like Spelunky was, but at the same time, I'm so inexperienced with it. There's a lot of depth that I'm aware of with it that I definitely have a lot to learn about the game. And it's a very long, drawn-out learning experience from what I've played of it so far, so let's get into it. So the way that the game works is that you're given a day and night cycle, and you have to, during the day, gather supplies, you have to keep yourself fed, and during the night, out of the clutches of the darkness, because you'll start to go insane, you will start to be attacked by monsters that only come out at night, and it's got this really nice art style that I compared Our Darker Purpose to earlier when I was doing those recordings. And it's that kind of Tim Burton-ish style, which I almost hate to call it a Tim Burton-ish style, because that has become such a cliche and it can mean so many different things. And just like I was talking about how I love Our Darker Purpose's art style, I love Don't Starve's just a little bit more, even though they're very similar in the way things are drawn, in the way things are rendered. Don't Starve tends to be a little bit more colored, but again, it also has that Tim Burton quality of having these almost stick figure-like characters with these... It's colorful, but the colors are all muted. So the goal of the game is to just survive. As of yet, I don't think that there is a completion screen, or at least not one that I've seen or am aware of. You just kind of try to go as long as possible. You create little farms of berries and food and whatnot. You constantly want to create bonfires and just venture out into the wilderness and find more and more things. And eventually, as the game progresses, you get a little less sane. You get more hungry as you don't eat, and that affects your health. It affects the monster spawns, and there are sanity effects, I believe, just like in Eternal Darkness. And you build your way up to something sustainable and long-term, and as the nights pass, things very slowly get harder and more intense, and more difficult monsters spawn at night, and marauding enemies that can ravage an unfortified campsite start to spawn. But the beginning of the game is just very slow and mundane, and that sounds like the least fun thing ever, and I don't know how it comes across as a viewing experience, but to play it is actually this weird mix of relaxing and intense. And I know that sounds contradictory, but that creeping sense of dread that knowing you're on a timer and you have to be efficient about scavenging and prioritizing, it's a very calm, contemplative sort of game, and a really unique one. It just scratches that itch, that survival and exploration-oriented itch, and not many games try to craft an experience like that. They usually gun for something else. And I also appreciate that Klei didn't go the easy way out and go for zombies as the monster of the game, because it would have been easier to go that route instead of creating some of the really twisted, inventive, unnerving monsters there in the game that hopefully you guys get to see relatively soon. Kind of bound to the day-night cycle, though. Not to knock the resurgence of good zombie media, though, I should say that. Because The Walking Dead was my game of the year last year. The Last of Us may very well wind up as my game of the year this year. It's certainly up there as at least a top 3. It's got some strong competition. The thing is, those two things, The Walking Dead Telltale game and The Last of Us, sorry, I couldn't stop thinking of The Walking Dead. They aren't really focused on the zombie element, or they do some borderline creative stuff with the idea. But my point was, Klei went a much more creative route, but that's kind of par for the course for them. Klei, if you guys don't know, made Shank and last year's absolutely excellent 2D stealth ninja game, Mark of the Ninja, which you should buy on Steam for, I think it's like 10 or 15 bucks. As soon as you're done watching this, go buy it. It's one of the best stealth games ever. You actually feel like a ninja in it. It is so silky smooth. And you've got a deep bag of tricks, and the way information is presented visually is so perfect. Buy Mark of the Ninja, and don't starve. I haven't played Shank, but Klei is working on a pretty damn impressive pedigree, so I'm looking at having that in my future pretty soon. Oh god, I have to attack my spider friends, Pete. They're all named Pete and Pete. Man, I missed that show. I don't know what to do with the outhouse. That's one of those things I'm just gonna have to figure out. I wonder if I make a torch if I can burn the outhouse down. It'd be really cruel. I actually had I almost had a similar type of emergency earlier. Oh, should I even go into details about that? I was, without going too graphic with it, I was, sitting on the toilet and I heard this loud beeping sound. And I started flipping out because I thought my house was on fire. And I was not sure at that point how to react. What is that following me? Okay, doesn't appear to be hostile. I wasn't really sure how to react. I couldn't just jump off the toilet lest I streak feces across my house. Especially, that would be especially bad for a false alarm. So I'm having this panic reaction of like, oh my god, what do I do? What do I do? And it turns out that it was just my washing machine, which is in my basement, located directly beneath the bathroom, going off. Don't make the mistake I did. Don't confuse your washing machine beeping for a fire alarm, and then you will not have fecal emergencies. Now it's finally dark. I don't think monsters are gonna come out to attack me on the first night, unless I venture too far away, and even then, you won't be able to see them through the veil of darkness. Oh man. Speaking of fecal urgency and zombies and whatever the hell else I was talking about, since I brought up The Walking Dead, that reminded me, I caught the new Season 4 Walking Dead trailer for the AMC show, the live-action one, and I just don't know what to say about that show anymore. It always starts off with such promise, and then the terrible writing really kicks in. And it's all ups and downs, where the ups are so brief that they feel like teases that just get totally engulfed in how awful the characterization is, and just how puzzling the decisions characters make are, and just the entire way that events unfold. I tried to defend it up until like the mid-season of Season 2, and it makes it so hard. The show makes itself so hard to defend. Like how puzzling the end of the governor's arc was, with everyone just walking away from him after this really tepid battle scene, and he just goes nuts. And that's how you wrap the arc up. Come on. They've done... Well, they're going to have done 4 seasons now, I think starting in October. And they've been through, what, like 3 showrunners? The only reason I have any hope for Season 4 is that the newest showrunner, I can't remember his name, is the same guy who wrote one of the better episodes of the show, but that's That's changing the tires on a car where the engine has been replaced by a homeless guy using the hood as a toilet. Oh, tombstone. That's pleasant. Blends in with this Walking Dead talk quite nicely, too. Why did I start thinking of The Walking Dead in the first place? Oh yeah, I was talking about the Telltale game. Yeah, I'm getting real concerned about the show and the possible connection to the Telltale game. Because in the trailer that I watched, they have this moment where they take the map out and they point to Macon, which is where the Telltale game starts, and I am so fucking afraid that the show is going to do some kind of crossover or cross-promotion with Telltale's take on it, and just butcher those characters. I love that I can think of a game, though, that I can worry that the TV show might butcher the game and not the other way around. Games writing, exemplified by Telltale's take on The Walking Dead, has come a long way. It's not perfect yet, but I can't say that I've ever thought anything like that before. Well, for the most part, anyway. There's always game movies that I hope don't butcher the game's lore, but this was a game adapted from a comic. So it's a bit different. And usually when things are adapted directly from the game, it's more, like, the reason they're terrible is usually more of them just being dreadful and unfaithful and soulless and mishandling a franchise. But, yeah. I'm concerned that Telltale's Walking Dead, especially with Season 2 on the horizon, is going to somehow be compromised by a possible crossover with the show. With a little luck, it won't happen, though. I expressed some very similar concerns about how another entry in the saga of Walking Dead might damage Telltale's game, because so far, Telltale's game is the single best piece of media related to The Walking Dead. The comic itself, the source material for all of this stuff, is pretty okay, but the game is I think, much, much better. Bar for, like, a few scenes from the comic. And I was expressing some similar concerns back when I was playing Alan Wake with Mike, that the Walking Dead survival instinct might actually damage the reputation of Telltale's game. Because I was super concerned that because the trash quality of survival instinct, people might see, oh yeah, they're both Walking Dead video games, and they might not look further than that, and then they play Survival Instinct and realize that's a giant trash heap of a game, and then they don't... The next time they see a Walking Dead game, they just think, oh, they're probably pretty much the same thing, and therefore Survival Instinct would negatively impact the good game. But so far, I haven't heard any rumblings that might be the case. I really, really hope that nobody passes up on the 400 Days DLC or Season 2 of the game whenever that comes out, just because they were burned a little bit by Survival Instinct. And I'm just going to be wandering through the forest for a bit. We are getting into the late afternoon for the second day-night cycle. And I want to just find some goddamn stones at this point. I'm wandering so far away. I don't think that campfire that I set up for the last night is going to be doing too hot. Doing too hot. I just want stones. That's all I want at this point. I just want to craft tools. That's pretty much my priority. So, your priority early in the game is just find some foods, find some carrots, some berries, some mushrooms. Maybe they'll be of the hallucinogenic variety. You want to build traps, build a fire, and then slowly branch out and explore and build tools and more advanced items. You need wood and stones for the early tools, and then you are also managing throughout the day-night cycle, you're managing a health meter, a sanity meter, and hunger, which are all up there, and they're all loosely tied together. You want to keep eating to keep your hunger up. You want to... I think the berries or some of the leaves are... No, I think it's flower petals. Some of those heal you very slightly. You want to not spend too much time out in the dark with no light sources, or otherwise you will go insane, just like in Amnesia. And the game's got a really extensive crafting system, which I guess I'll get more into in the next episode as we approach our second night. So, thank you guys for watching. Take it easy. Have a good one.